Hello. This speaker has been recorded at a meeting of Addictive Eaters Anonymous. For more information, visit our website www.aeainfo.org.
Hi, I'm Louise. I'm an addictive eater.
Hi, Louise.
Lovely to have the opportunity to share a bit of my story, my experience and strength and hope. And I guess when I was thinking about what I would sort of like to talk about, because I feel I've told my story quite a lot, I thought about that fact that surrender is at the heart of the AEA program. And so I thought I wanted to talk a little bit about surrender and what that was like for me. And I guess it also makes me think of the third step prayer. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou will. Please, I always put in please relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Please take away my difficulties, that victory over them may be a witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. And I think about how I tried to live that. I tried to live that way of surrender to a higher power from my early 20s, because I knew that was actually the right way to live. I knew that deep down in me was this place, and that if I could surrender, I would be able to live from this place of peace and awareness and love. But while that was my intention, my actions were the actions of a really sick addict. So with the best will in the world, I was just absolutely unable to stop my eating, my binging and my vomiting, my absolute obsession with my weight, my fear, my terrible fear of being overweight, and the sort of loss of control that would represent. Big self-hatred, the self-harm, the hitting myself, slapping myself, calling myself names because I thought I was just so hopeless and terrible. And the only sort of thing in my life that seemed to be enjoyable was the food. It was enjoyable for quite a long time. It was the highlight of my life for a long time. It really, I felt like I couldn't get on with people, I couldn't get on with life, I couldn't get a sort of a proper job underway, I couldn't really do very much. I kept moving from town to town and country to country and boyfriend to boyfriend, and nothing ever worked. Nothing was working out. But I would, if I had gathered food around me and was sort of having a binge, then it was like, just blank out all of that sort of failure to live life properly, and I could just be in the food, just what I wanted to be doing, which was just getting all this food down me. And gosh, that went on for a long time. It went on for a long time, long enough for me to give up on the idea of ever having any sort of spiritual life or life of surrender. By the time I got here, I just knew that, that the eating had me, that the way I was living, I was never going to get better. I was never going to come right. I was never going to grow up. I was never going to shake it off. That was it. I was stuck with being this person who at the time had a small child and a partner living with them in a house, and I'd be off in the garden after meals on my hands and knees under bushes, vomiting, and after work I'd stop by the fast food restaurant and get a couple of bags of chips and burgers and shakes and things and be eating it and vomiting it, driving around looking for a rubbish bin to dump it in, and then going back in the house and trying to behave like a sort of a normal person, but a normal person who was just completely dead inside and had completely given up. And so I remember hearing something on the radio about a 12-step fellowship for food, and then I don't know if it was not long later, but seeing something in the library as well. And that was enough to sort of spark my curiosity to think, oh, well, I've done so much therapy, so much counselling, but I suppose I could do one last gasp, one last bit of therapy. Okay, I'll go along and I'll tell them how mum didn't love me enough, and that's why, I've been doing all this, eating behaviour. So I came along and I was waiting for the opportunity to weep and tell you about how hard my life had been and how mum had mistreated me by not hugging me and all the rest of it. And it wasn't therapy at all. It was us, it was this. It was a 12-step fellowship with a solution for people who are addicted to food. And I didn't think for a second that was me, but I also knew that I'd absolutely tried everything and there was nothing else to try. So I may as well kind of come along. So I came along and I guess I heard things that I really started to relate to, not just with the eating. I heard how other people couldn't stop eating and the binging and I could start to relate to that, but I also related to, as Robin S. used to talk about, the madness in the head. I related to the madness in the head. And then people started to talk about, it wasn't even to do with food. I remember quite early on Tina talking about having parked somewhere and she hadn't put money in the meter, or she hadn't put much money in the meter, and how she had gone back and put money in the meter because she knew that it was the wrong thing. And people were starting to talk about the way they behaved, and I could relate to this incredibly self-centered behaviour, and behaviour where it was just all about what could I get away with, what was free, what could I sneakily have, and people were talking about living this life that sounded like they had integrity and morals, or at least a moral compass, and knew what was right and what was the right way to live and what was the right thing to do, and they were doing it. And I could hear from their stories and all the laughter and stuff that people didn't get it right all the time, but it was like this was a life that offered something just really different, something that I'd wanted but had given up on there being sort of available. And then there was the light that I could see in the older members, the light in their faces, the calmness of them. Yeah, I'd been to lots of groups, lots of therapy groups, lots of, groups to try and find yourself or heal yourself or, sort your stuff out or get back in touch with your inner child or whatever. And I'd never seen people that looked like the people here. So that was incredibly attractive. And so that kept me coming. And I believe that as far as the food was concerned, that when I arrived, I was already pretty much surrendered. I was already pretty much beaten, because I was very, very, very ready for someone to just tell me what to do as far as the food was concerned. And so that first part of step one, I was really, ready for. But that second part, that my life was unmanageable by me, and the surrender to a sponsor, that was much more difficult, because I was just so willful and had so many old ideas about life. And of course my old ideas had got me here, but it took quite a bit of time to become really willing to let go of those old ideas and to not find it incredibly painful to have to follow a suggestion that wasn't something that I necessarily thought was a good idea. That was very slow and very painful, extremely painful. But, my sponsor got me onto the steps, and again, the steps were surrender after surrender, and I could see that there was the relief of the bondage to self. I could see in the steps was the relief of the bondage of self, and I'd wanted relief of the bondage of self forever. And so although it was difficult at times working those steps, I really wanted that relief of the bondage to self. And I didn't want to eat. I didn't, thank you God, I didn't have a massive obsession to eat after I came in, you know, that was relieved incredibly quickly. I was very lucky. But this you know, this willfulness, that was very tricky. And I remember my second sponsor saying to me that, you know, lots of people, she said, leave not because of the food, but because they don't want to take direction. And I knew that would be me. That I knew the food, it wouldn't be the food that would drive me out of here. It would be my unwillingness to take direction. So, you know, I knew that I had to listen and I had to do. I had to take the suggestions, and they were never terrible suggestions. They were sensible suggestions. It's not like I was being asked to do anything ridiculous. I was being enfolded in a way of living and encouraged to live in the way that people here live. And so it wasn't anything terrible, but for me, who was so used to doing things my way, it was really, really hard, and it took a long time. But I'm just so grateful that I had that gift of desperation that I hear about so much here, that gift of desperation, because I absolutely knew 100% that there was nothing out there that was going to work for me or help me. I absolutely 100% knew that, and so therefore I just had to slowly develop that willingness and be open and take those suggestions and take those actions and work those steps, do those things, make those amends, you know, make that inventory, talk to my sponsor about all my thinking and the things I'd done to people. You know, I had to just put it all out there, and you know, it was great. It was great. It was great, and it is great. It is great. It's not easy, but it's such a good life. I'm just so grateful for this life. And I was on the bus this morning going to work, and I had this negative thinking. I don't know what it was about, maybe something at work or something, and I'm sitting on the bus thinking about this, I'm no good at that, and that's not going to work out, and negative thinking, and then I looked around and I looked outside, and of course here's the trees all beginning to unfold and all the green blush beginning to appear, magnolias blooming on these incredible sort of what looks like dead branches, you know, just the incredible beauty. And I remembered that I have a choice. I can focus on that thinking, or I can focus on being in the present in this most beautiful life and in this world and on this beautiful earth, which is a complete gift. And then I can be living as God would have me live, and I can respond and not react, and I can do my job, and I can be in the day, and I can take actions and have conversations, and it's different because there's that willingness to let go of self. And I mean, it comes and goes. I'm no saint, and I'm definitely not present most of the time even, but I'm just so grateful that with sobriety, the fellowship, my sponsor, the steps, that there is just this incredible opportunity for beauty and spaciousness and connectedness that I never would have had if I hadn't come. So I'll keep coming.